प्रभु जी माइक ऑफ है।
सर ने बताया नहीं. Thank you, bro. I think I joined from this normal Google Chrome, that's so it became off. So I was telling that second chapter has 5 sections, and right now we are in the last section. So the first section, Arjuna continues to give his reasons why he doesn't want to fight. In the second section, Arjuna surrenders to Krishna because he is totally confused whether he should fight or not. And then Arjuna gives the knowledge of Sankhya Yoga in the second section to Arjuna. And in the third section, Krishna is telling on the basis of Varna and Ashrama that he should fight. Because he's a Kshatriya, he should not give up his the occupational duty of Varna and Ashrama. So, because these fighting opportunities, they open the path to heavenly planets. And in the fourth section, Krishna is telling about the Buddhi Yoga. That till now he has described Sankhya Yoga, but now he will tell that what is the nature of the intelligence of a person who is practicing Buddhi Yoga. And in the final section from 54 sloka to 72nd sloka, Arjuna is asking this question: what are the characteristics of a Sthita Pragya devotee? In the 54th verse, how does he walk? How does he talk? And what language does he speak? So all these things Arjuna is asking, and then Krishna is answering this question in the next 18 verses. So we read till 60th verse. So actually in the same verse, in the 54th verse, Arjuna is asking 4 questions. What are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence? Second is, how does he speak? What is his language? And fourth is, how does he sit and how does he walk? So to the first question, Krishna gives answer in the immediate next verse, in the 55th verse. Shri Bhagavan uvacha prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan atmanyevatmana tushta sthita pragyastadachyate. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Parth, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So, one who finds satisfaction in the self alone, that is the symptom of a Sthita Pragya devotee. That is the symptom that his consciousness is merged in transcendence. And in the 56th and 57th verse, Krishna is answering the question to how does he speak? What is his language? So basically, when he says how does he speak, it means how does he respond to external situations. So that is the answer is given in the 56th and 57th verse. Dukkheshu anudvignamana sukheshu vigata spriha vitarag bhakroda stitadhermuniruchyate. One who is not disturbed in mind even amidst the threefold miseries are related when there is happiness, and who is free from attachment, fear, and anger is called a stage of steady mind. So the external situation does not disturb him because his Krishna consciousness is so deep that he is able to connect with Krishna in his heart. So the external stimulus does not disturb his Krishna consciousness, which might not be the case with us, right? We might have conditioning, we might have some negative emotions which might get triggered by some external events. In those situations, we should take responsibility of our own conditioning and emotions, rather than blaming the external triggers. That okay, this event is triggering my emotion. Okay, that it might have been triggered, but for the emotion, we should take responsibility for our own. And there is a similar verse in the 57th verse, which says that in the material world, one who is unaffected by whatever good or evil he may obtain, neither praising it nor despising it, is firmly fixed in perfect knowledge. Because a devotee knows that whatever good or whatever bad comes, that is ordained by Krishna. Radha Govind Maharaj says that 3 things are fixed. One is the food which we eat, that is fixed by Krishna. When we take birth, according to our karma, we get certain amount of food. And the money which we receive, that is also fixed. And the wife which we will receive, that is also fixed. So all these 3 things are fixed. We should always be satisfied by these 3 things because these are not in our hands. But there are 3 things which we should never be satisfied are. Anybody knows? Which 3 things we should never be satisfied? Yes, Prabhu. Prabhuji, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Right.
Prabhuji, I think first one is money.
We should never be satisfied by money. I just said that we should be satisfied by whatever money we are able to achieve.
प्रभु जी एक ही याद आ रहा है अभी तो.
वो भी गलत है.
ज्ञान
Yes,
में भी ज्ञान है, भक्ति ज्ञान.
Bhakti, yes, Bhakti Gyan. Very nice. Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Manish Prabhu is correct. Yes, Mataji, Pragya Mataji.
yes प्रभु जी, हम एक याद आ रहा था कि जो हम चैरिटी करते हैं.
हाँ, चैरिटी. यस, बिल्कुल सही. तो जैसा आपने बोला, चैरिटी जो हम करते हैं उससे कभी सेटिस्फाई नहीं होना चाहिए. जितनी भी हम चैरिटी कर सकते हैं वो करते ही रहना चाहिए. और दूसरा, हमें शास्त्र के अध्ययन से कभी सेटिस्फाई नहीं होना चाहिए. शास्त्रों का अध्ययन जितना कर सकते हैं हम उतना डेप्थ में हमें जाना चाहिए. और तीसरा, चैंटिंग, जप, जो हमारी साधना है उससे कभी सेटिस्फाई नहीं होना. जितनी हमेशा हम कर सकें, जितनी हम चेतना को ऊपर उठा सकें, उतना हमें करना चाहिए. ठीक है. थैंक यू प्रभु अनंत. So that's what basically that is what the Ishavasham principle also says, that one should be satisfied within our quota, but we can use our quota to expand our quota actually. So what does it mean? That when we operate within our quota for Krishna's pleasure, when we do these three things and increase these three things, then our quota increases. When we do bhakti more, when we preach Krishna consciousness, when we serve other people, when we do deity services, when we serve Krishna, then slowly, when we depend on Krishna, Krishna increases our quota. So then those things which are not in our hand, those might increase. You might get better prasadam. For example, Rajit Prabhu and Pragya Mataji, they were saying that they are not able to have good association at home. So slowly, when we are sincere, then Krishna arranges that situation to that they will be able to go to some ISKCON in Haridwar, or there might be some campus preaching program which might happen and you can take prasadam there. So whenever pious credits mature, whenever basically our quota increases, then Krishna arranges that situation. But when we do bhakti, there will be some pious results which will accumulate. But those pious results which we should again employ in propagating Krishna consciousness and doing bhakti. Okay. So, and in the 58th verse, Krishna says, one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as a tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. So, actually, Burijan Prabhu says that when Arjuna asks, how does he sit, how does he walk, it means that how does he interact with the external world, and which actually means that how are his senses interacting with the sense objects of the material world. So, here in the 58th verse, it is clearly said that a devotee is has very strong control over his mind and senses. He is very like single pointed in his service. He knows how much service to do where, and he does his service and he comes back. Wherever there is no service for him, he doesn't like expand his senses. So he is like a tortoise. Whenever he wants to walk, he basically expands the legs and he walks. And whenever there is no need to walk, he just contracts his legs and rests. Okay. So actually, till the 58th verse, Krishna has answered all the questions of Arjuna asked in the 54th verse. These are the main symptoms. How does he walk? How does he sit? What are the symptoms of his consciousness? How does he talk? And now, basically, Krishna continuously will tell by the technique of compare and contrast that what all are beneficial for cultivating single pointed intelligence and what is not beneficial for cultivating single pointed intelligence. So 59th verse it says, Vishya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Though the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So both has to be done. Like we have to regulate our sense gratification, but that regulation will be successful only if we are able to cultivate a higher taste. Suppose I tell you that okay, you should not drive your Maruti car today. okay, maybe for 1 week you will not drive, but after 1 week you will say, oh, there is such nice wind, I want to go to hill station, I will go with my Maruti car. So unless you get a higher car, unless you get a Mercedes car, you will have to forcibly drive your Maruti car because of your urges in your mind, right? But if you get a Mercedes car, then you will drive Mercedes car. So like this, we cannot suppress anything. Suppressed emotions or feelings, they result in diseases. So we have to regulate those emotions and feelings, and we have to, after regulating, we have to engage in Krishna's service through those emotions and feelings. Then we will experience higher taste. Okay. And 60th verse says, Yatato hi api konteya purushasya vipaschita indriyani pramatini haranti prasabam mana. Because we cannot suppress feelings, because like controlling mind and senses is not easy. The senses are so strong and impetuous that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. So that's why somehow we have to remain engaged. We have to keep our mind engaged. Either we keep our mind engaged in studying Shastra, or we keep our mind engaged in like doing some service for the deities, or hearing, chanting, or associating with devotees, or maybe seeing some like serial, hearing Prabhupada lectures, hearing from our spiritual master. So this gives our mind a higher taste and a food for thought. So that's why like I also, like whatever I read, I keep sharing in the group. I was reading Ramayana on this Ekadashi, so I shared. So all these things are beneficial. Like even in 17th chapter, we know like there is a verse telling about the austerities of the mind. Mana prasada saumitvam manamatma vinigraha bhava samshuddhiriyatat tapo manasam uchyate. And anudvekaram vakyam satyam priyamitam chayat swadhyaya vyasnam chaiva vangmayam tapochyate. So in the austerity of speech, they tell about the swadhyaya. Basically, like uh, our speech should not be agitating to others. Anudvekaram vakyam. It should be truthful, it should be beneficial, and it should be palatable. And these four qualities can be cultivated when you study scriptures. Swadhyaya vyasnam chaiva vangmayam tapochyate. These are the austerities of speech. And when you are able to cultivate the austerities of speech, then automatically your mind will find satisfaction. Because our speech is a reflection of our consciousness, right? So if our mind is not satisfied, automatically our speech will be agitated. So to cultivate satisfaction of mind, we should study scriptures. Mana prasada saumitvam, maunam atma vinigraha. We should cultivate gravity, silence. We should think about Krishna. We should try to meditate upon the qualities of the devotees. We should try to think about the scriptures, about the pastimes mentioned in the scriptures. For example, how Rama consoled Lakshmana after Sita Devi spoke harshly to him. So Lakshmana, he was like serving selflessly. He was waking up. He was not even sleeping at all, actually. And he was making hut also for both Sita and Ram. And the result which he got was harsh words from Sita. And it was really intolerable for him, actually. And only by the words of Rama, he was consoled. That don't just be swayed away by her words. Try to understand her tension and her anxiety behind those words. So that's what, like whenever somebody speaks something which is arrogant, which we don't like, then we should not be so much like disturbed by those words. Rather, we should understand, okay, this person is angry right now, so maybe we can speak later. So we should not be like disturbed by that anger. But yeah, generally it happens like words they act more sharper than swords, actually. So it is but natural to get hurt, but slowly we can strengthen our consciousness and forgive. Okay. Okay, we'll start reading now. तानि सर्वाणि संयम्य युक्त आसीत् मत्परा वशे हि यस्येन्द्रियाणि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता. One who restrains his senses, keeping them under full control, and fixes his conscience upon me, is known as a man of steady intelligence. So this fixing our mind on Krishna and controlling our mind and senses, they both go hand in hand. And if you are able to control your mind and senses more, then it is more probable that you will be able to remember Krishna more, because then your heart will be more satisfied, more peaceful, more pure. Then Krishna will allow you to remember him. You cannot actually like experience Krishna without Krishna's sanction. And Krishna sees your etiquette, how you are interacting throughout the day, how you are doing different occupational duties at your workplace. So that everything Krishna sees. So that's why it is said the sadhana which we do in the morning, that is actually a byproduct of how our consciousness is throughout the day. And like obviously the consciousness is very much decided by the services which we are doing, the quality of prasadam we are taking. So whatever other activities we are doing, that determines the quality of chanting in the morning. And generally, if our hearing is very good, then your chanting will be very nice. So chanting is also in 3 levels, right? Like there is Namaprad chanting, Namabhas, and then Shuddhanam. So in Shuddhanam, basically you are able to remember what you heard. So because chanting is our relationship with Krishna, so actually you are able to experience Krishna and you are able to basically uh, assimilate more what you heard. So the entire relationship with Krishna awakens when we chant in the pure holy name, the Shuddhanam actually. Yeah, in the 15th chapter, it is written that there is nothing else other than memory of Krishna consciousness. So when we are Krishna conscious, then our memory also becomes strong, and then we remember more our past exchanges in Krishna consciousness. I was experiencing this day before yesterday. I was hearing like Asit Krishna Maharaj, Maharaj, who is a disciple of Gaur Govind Swami. He came to Bangalore, and I was hearing his lecture. I met him. So many memories get triggered actually when you meet a pure devotee. So it's like that. Like when you feel Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Rasa, then your memory is also triggered, and that is good. That's why if you do chanting and if you are able to remember what you heard in the like previously, you don't have to forcibly do that. Like it has to happen spontaneously. Then basically you are doing pure. You are chanting pure holy. Okay. And we need association basically. We need good guidance of a bona fide spiritual master for that. Purport. That the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambrish. And Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride and therefore could not check his senses. So these are two contradictory things basically, that unless we are Krishna consciousness, we will not be able to control our senses. And unless we control our senses, there is no scope of becoming Krishna conscious. So that's why it is a battle for a sadhaka. Sadhaka is trying to control his senses, but then also he is failing. Why? Because he is not Krishna conscious. So that's why for a sadhaka, good association is very important. Whenever some sadhu comes to the temple, he goes to the temple and hears from him. He serves him. He asks questions. So that is important. And even sages like Durvasa Muni, Saubhara Muni, and Vishwamitra, Lord Shiva, they are becoming agitated when there is a provocation. So Prabhupada used to say that it's a person who is able to practice bhakti in a comfortable situation, that is good. But a real devotee is one who is not disturbed in a disturbing situation. And is able to practice bhakti in a disturbing situation also. And we have the example of Ambarish Maharaj here. Durvasa Muni unleashed an entire demon, but still Ambarish Maharaj's consciousness was totally fixed on Krishna. He was not at all worried about the presence of the demon, and he knew that Krishna will protect him. And as his consciousness was totally fixed on Krishna, immediately the Sudarshan Chakra came from behind, from the courtyard of the palace of Maharaj Ambarish. So Maharaj Ambrish was so dear to Krishna that Krishna's Sudarshan Chakra was also hiding in the courtyard of the palace of Ambrish Maharaj. So that's why, like, the all the external situations are proportional to our own consciousness. So just like yesterday we were reading Lilamrit, and as we were started experiencing rasa, immediately like Manas Prabhu also called and Aman Prabhu also. So this is reality actually. Through the super soul, we all are connected. And as soon as the degree of experience of super soul increases, then immediately super soul starts giving signals. Who else is connected to that particular group? So everything acts by super soul. Krishna is the controller. So this is wonderful Krishna consciousness. When we experience this, then actually then we are living a thrill life, actually thrilling life. Krishna consciousness is very, it's not static, it's ecstatic actually. And I know like all of you have experienced this. Aman Prabhu was telling that one day he was searching for a service and he went to the temple, and immediately he was given the service of holding Jagannath, and then Jagannath beated him on his head throughout the Jilan Yatra. So like these are the ways like Krishna reciprocates with his devotees' desires. These are not just like mundane things happening, matlab, just by chance. These are actual reciprocations of Krishna. This is the reality, that Krishna is the controller. Krishna ultimately reciprocates according to our desire and disposition of heart and our qualification. And here it's happening everywhere, like with Amrish Maharaj, with all of us. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful a yogi as a sage but a devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all the sage's injustices and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualifications as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Very beautiful verses telling about the qualities of Maharaj Amrish. Savaimana Krishna Padaravindayor Sivekuntha Gunanuvarnane Karo Harir Mandiramarjanadishu Shrutim Chakarachita Chatkathodaya Mukundalinga Alaya Darshane Drisho Tadbritya Gatra Sparshayanga Sangamam Granam Chatatpada Saroja Saurabhe Shrima Tulasya Rasanam Tadarpite Padau Hare Kshetra Padanusarpane Shiro Rishikesh Padabhivandane Kamam Chadase Natu Kama Kamyaya Yathottama Sloka Janashrayarati. King Ambrish fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, engaged his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastimes of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotee, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered to him, his legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated, his head in offering obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desires of the Lord. And all these qualifications made him fit to become a Matpara devotee of the Lord. So, a Matpara devotee is a very, very eager devotee. He engages all his senses in Krishna's service because that greediness is so high that immediately every sense is utilized in Krishna's service. The word Matpara is most significant in this connection. How one can become Matpara is described in the life of Maharaj Amrish. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, a great scholar and acharya in the line of Matpara, remarks, Madbhakti Prabhavena Sarvendriya Vijaya Purvika Swatma Drishti Sulabheti Bhava. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. As a blazing fire burns everything within a room, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns up all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribes meditation on Vishnu and not meditation on the world. The so-called yogis who meditate on something other than Vishnu simply waste their time in a vain search after some phantasmagoria. You have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of real yoga. So Prabhupada gives this example of sparks of fire. So we are just spirit soul and Krishna is the fire. So the more we stay closer to Krishna, which is the fire, the more we will become hot. The more we'll experience the light and heat. So that's why, and actually that's why again and again we are going to the temple, because temple has this degree of Krishna consciousness very high. And the more we stay in the temple, the more we receive, the more we become humble, more we receive the positive vibration, the mercy of the Lord, the more Krishna conscious we become, the more ecstasy comes. So that's what Prabhupada gives that's why Prabhupada gives the example of this fire. Yeah. Next verse. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसा संगस्तेषु पुजायते संगात् संजायते कामा कामात् क्रोधो विजायते क्रोधात् भवति सम्मोहः सम्मोहात् स्मृतिविभ्रमः स्मृतिभ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. So Krishna is again and again he will use this technique of compare and contrast. So in the previous verse he said that if you are able to restrain your senses, then you can become Krishna conscious. But if you are not able to restrain your senses, then you will contemplate the sense objects, and then the attachment will develop, and from that attachment, lust will develop. And if the lust is not satisfied, then anger will arise. And if anger comes, then delusion will happen. And from delusion, there is bewilderment of memory. You will not remember anything. And when the memory is bewildered, then your intelligence is totally lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material world. So actually, above the mind is intelligence. So once intelligence is lost, then automatically we are in the clutches of Maya. We are in the clutches of three modes of nature of our mind. So that's why we are thrown into the material world. So anybody wants to read 62nd and 63rd verse? Manish Prabhu or Pragya Mataji?
Yes.
Okay. Padhi bro, 62nd verse.
60 seconds. All right. ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसः संगस्तेषु उपजायते संगात् संजायते कामात् कामात् क्रोधो विजायते. हिंदी ऑल्सो
Purport Prabhu, purport.
जो मनुष्य कृष्ण भावनाभावित नहीं है उसमें इंद्रिय विषयों के चिंतन से भौतिक इच्छाएं उत्पन्न होती हैं। इंद्रियों को किसी न किसी कार्य में लगे रहना चाहिए और यदि वे भगवान के दिव्य प्रेमा भक्ति में नहीं लगी रहेंगी तो वे निश्चय ही भौतिकवाद में लगनी चाहेंगी। इस भौतिक जगत में हर एक प्राणी इंद्रिय विषयों के अधीन है, यहाँ तक कि ब्रह्मा तथा शिव जी। तो स्वर्ग के अन्य देवताओं के विषय में क्या कहा जा सकता है। इस संसार के जंजाल से निकलने का एकमात्र उपाय है कृष्ण भावना भावित होना। शिव ध्यानमग्न थे, किंतु जब पार्वती ने विषय भोग के लिए उन्हें उत्तेजित किया तो वे सहमत हो गए, जिसके फलस्वरूप कार्तिकेय का जन्म हुआ। इसी प्रकार तरुण भगवत भक्त हरिदास ठाकुर को माया देवी के अवतार ने मोहित करने का प्रयास किया, किंतु विशुद्ध कृष्ण भक्ति के कारण वे इस कसौटी में खरे उतरे। जैसा कि यामुनाचार्य के उपयुक्त श्लोक में बताया जा चुका है, भगवान का एक निष्ठ भक्त भगवान के संगति के आध्यात्मिक सुख का आस्वादन करने के कारण समस्त भौतिक इंद्रिय सुख को त्याग देता है। अतः जो कृष्ण भावना भावित नहीं है वह कृत्रिम दमन के द्वारा अपनी इंद्रियों को वश में करने में कितना ही शक्तिशाली क्यों न हो, अंत में अवश्य असफल होगा, क्योंकि विषय सुख का रंश मात्र विचार भी उसे इंद्रिय तृप्ति के लिए उत्तेजित कर देगा। हरे कृष्ण। क्रोधाद क्रोधाद भवति सम्मोह सम्मोहात् स्मृति विभ्रम स्मृति स्मृति भ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति। और कृष्ण भाव
एक सेकंड प्रभु, एक सेकंड। तो इसमें मतलब यही लॉर्ड शिवा और हरिदास ठाकुर को कंपेयर किया कि हरिदास ठाकुर कंप्लीटली कृष्णा कॉन्शियस थे, तो वो अपनी सुरक्षा कर पाए माया देवी से, और लॉर्ड शिवा जो बिल्कुल मतलब विष्णु के बराबर ही हैं, वो अपनी रक्षा नहीं कर पाए माया से, क्योंकि ही गेव इन टू द प्रोवोकेशन ऑफ पार्वती। सो कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस इज वेरी हाई। मतलब इफ वी आर वेरी हम्बल, we are very dedicated to our guru, to our sadhana, then Maya Devi can never touch us. Even the followers of Haridas Thakur, Maya Devi will run away from 100 meters. Yeah. पढ़िए प्रभुपाद.
क्रोधाद् सम्मोह सम्मोहात् स्मृति विभ्रम स्मृति वंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. श्री रूप गोस्वामी ने हमें यह आदेश दिया है, प्रापश्चिकतया बुद्धया हरि संबंधिन वस्तुनो मुमुक्षुभिः परित्यागो वैराग्यं फल्गु कथ्यते. कृष्ण भावनामृत के विकास से मनुष्य जान सकता है कि प्रत्येक वस्तु का उपयोग भगवान की सेवा के लिए किया जा सकता है. जो कृष्ण भावनामृत के ज्ञान से रहित है, वे कृत्रिम ढंग से भौतिक विषयों से बचने का प्रयास करते हैं, फल में भवबंधन से मोक्ष की कामना करते हुए भी वैराग्य की चरम अवस्था को प्राप्त नहीं कर पाते. उनका तथाकथित वैराग्य फल्गु अर्थात गौण कहलाता है. इसके विपरीत कृष्ण भावना भावित व्यक्ति जानता है कि प्रत्येक वस्तु का उपयोग भगवान की सेवा में किस प्रकार किया जाए, फलतः वह भौतिक चेतना का शिकार नहीं होता. उदाहरणार्थ, निर्दिष्ट निराकार होने के कारण भोजन नहीं कर सकते, अतः वह अच्छे खाद्यों से बचता रहता है. किंतु भक्त जानता है कि कृष्ण परम भोक्ता है और भक्ति पूर्वक उन पर जो भी भेंट चढ़ाई जाती है उसे वे खाते हैं. अतः भगवान को अच्छा भोजन चढ़ाने के बाद भक्त प्रसाद ग्रहण करता है. इस प्रकार हर वस्तु प्राणवान हो जाती है और अधः पतन को कोई संकट नहीं रहता है. भक्त कृष्ण भावनामृत में रहकर प्रसाद ग्रहण करता है, जबकि अभक्त इसे पदार्थ के रूप में तिरस्कार कर देता है. अतः निर्विशेषवादी अपने कृत्रिम त्याग के कारण जीवन को भोग नहीं पाता और यही कारण है कि मन में थोड़े से विचलन से वह भावकूप में पुनः गिर आ देता है. कहा जाता है कि मुक्ति के स्तर तक पहुंच जाने पर भी ऐसा जीव नीचे गिर जाता है क्योंकि उसे भक्ति का कोई आश्रय नहीं मिलता. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So Anand Meo Bhyasat, right? Like the soul has this nature of seeking pleasure. And if the soul doesn't experience sufficient spiritual pleasure, then automatically it will go towards material pleasure. And here we see that impersonalists, they are not able to experience any pleasure. They can't go on Harinam. They can't take wonderful prasadam. They can't do Rath Yatra, where we are just dancing, distributing prasadam. They can't do Harinam. They are not able to go on yatras, where we experience so much bliss in the association of senior devotees. So all these, they can't take darshan of the deities, right? They can't attend darshan arti, Guru Puja, or Mangal Arti, Gaur Arti. So all these things are actually the stimulants of our spiritual senses. They give pleasure. These are the means of exchanging rasas with Krishna. But for an impersonalist, there is no rasa. And for a devotee, there is rasa all around. Raso Vaisaha. Krishna is full of rasas. Krishna exchanges rasas with his devotees by so many forms. For example, even with children, if we do Krishna consciousness with anybody, with wife, with children, with friends, there is an exchange of rasas. And if we don't do Krishna consciousness, then there will be an exchange of three modes of nature. There will be anger, there will be fighting. So if you keep Krishna in center and if you are sober, then there will be exchanges of rasa with Krishna. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Any questions till now? Okay, no questions? Okay. So many sadhus say that these two verses are the suicidal verses. So whenever basically we go in on that route, our Guru Maharaj says that whenever you are able to detect, okay, I am on this route, I am contemplating some sense object, then from that sense object there is some attachment lust develops. So if I am able to detect this chain, then I should immediately come out of this chain. And how to come out? By connecting ourselves with Krishna by some means. Either we connect through the voice of our spiritual master, or we connect to one of the mentors. So like this, somebody who is higher than us, who is able to take us out of our will, who is not blind. he can help us to get out of this suicidal cycle. Okay, let's read the next verse.
रागद्वेष विमुक्तैस्तु विषयान्
रागद्वेष विमुक्तेस्तु विषयानिन्द्रियैश्चरन् आत्मवश्यैर्विधेयात्मा prasadamadigaccati. But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. So this is the contrast. That if you are not affected by 62nd and 63rd verse, then you become eligible to attain the mercy of the Lord. So Lord is ever compassionate, ever merciful, and if you are able to control your mind and senses, then for sure Krishna will give you mercy. Because all these items, this Gaur Arti, this Mangal Arti, Darshan Arti, reading Bhagavad Gita with the devotees, all these are means through which Krishna distributes mercy. So if we are able to control our senses in the other time, then automatically the mercy will come during this time. Yes. Mataji, you want to read? Pragya Mataji? Yeah, Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु जी हमारे पास भगवत गीता नहीं है, हम घर पर नहीं है.
Okay. Aman Prabhu, you want to read? 2.64. Anybody else? Prabhjit Prabhu is there? Yes, Prabhu. You can read. I'll tell him.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Purport. It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process, but unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fail. Although the person is full Krishna conscious, may apparently too be on the sensual plane. Because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. The Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. If Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinary undesirable, and if Krishna does not want, he shall not to do which is would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. The consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Very interesting. So this verse says that devotee acts according to the direction of Krishna. If Krishna wants him to go to Himalayas, he is ready. If Krishna wants him to come back from Himalayas, he is ready. But how do you determine what does Krishna want? Has there been any situation in your life where Krishna has clearly indicated, okay, Krishna wants this thing? Like, are there any situation where you receive clear inspiration that, okay, this is what Krishna wants? How do we know what does Krishna want? Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु. प्रभु जी, कृष्णा हमसे डेडिकेशन चाहते हैं भक्ति को लेके कि हम कितना डेडिकेटेड है भक्ति को लेके.
That is the general statement, but in a particular situation, like a practical, specific reciprocation, matlab, how do you know? Matlab, obviously, Krishna has given scriptures, sadhus are also there, spiritual master is also there. So Krishna reciprocates through that, and he clearly tells what Krishna wants. Patram pushpam phalam toyam, right? And so many things. But from your life, can you think of one situation where Krishna indicated you that, okay, Krishna wants this thing? You can take 30 seconds. Manish Prabhu, after 30 seconds, or you want to say now?
Yeah, I want to say now.
Okay, Prabhu, tell.
अगर अगर मान लो कि वर्चुअली it may appear he is doing something for his self-interest, but actually when you go along with his real thought, and if you ask the question and go deeper, what is his motive behind any type of work, so there is no self-interest. It means कि Krishna follows this type of thought. I want to say
मुझे ज्यादा समझ
सेल्फ
में
सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट नहीं होना चाहिए वहां पर, कि मतलब अपनी अपनी उसमें रुचि नहीं होनी चाहिए। दिखाई पड़ता है कि भैया हो सकता है कि अपने लिए काम कर रहे होंगे। अगर ऐसा है और अगर आप पूछते हैं डीपर, आप उससे जानना चाहते हैं, तो पता चल जाएगा वो कि ये बंदा अपने लिए नहीं, ये काम ये जो कर रहा था इसका मोटिव किसी दूसरे के लिए था, न कि सेल्फ इंटरेस्ट के लिए। तो ऐसे एक्टिविटीज को जानना चाहिए कि हाँ कृष्णा उसको चाहते हैं, मतलब कृष्णा के उसमें डिजायर है ऐसे एक्टिविटीज को। लेकिन अपने परिवार को की संपत्ति प्रॉपर्टीज बढ़ाने के लिए आप करते हैं, सोचते हैं, तो उसमें कृष्णा ऐसे भी सहयोग नहीं देंगे और कृष्णा की सहमति भी नहीं होती है उसमें। मैं ऐसा जैसे क्वेश्चन समझा उसके आंसर अनुसार मैं कोशिश कर रहा हूँ बता। नॉट ओके नो।
यस प्रभु, थैंक यू। मतलब वी हैव टू बिकम,
आवाज नहीं आ रही।
एक सेकंड में बाकी लोग भी सोचेगा फिर बोलेगा ना। ठीक है, आगे चलता है ना। हाँ बताइए प्रभु। थोड़ा शॉर्ट प्रभु, हाँ थोड़ा सा शॉर्ट में बताइएगा, प्रिसाइज मतलब।
ठीक है प्रभु। प्रभु जी जैसे आपने बताया कि मतलब कैसे रेसिप्रोकेट करते हैं, तो प्रभु जी जैसे बहुत बार ऐसे हमारे साथ सिचुएशंस हुई हैं कि हम जगन्नाथपुरी जाना चाहते थे और किसी रीज़न से जा नहीं पाए थे। तो क्या हुआ, प्रभु जी की पापा के कोई फ्रेंड है, वो वहाँ पे गए और उन्होंने पता नहीं प्रभु जी कैसे हमारे लिए एक डीटीज भेजे छोटे से, जिसमें जगन्नाथ जी, सुभद्रा जी और बलदेव जी तीनों थे। तो तब हमें लगेगा कि हाँ रेसिप्रोकेशन होता है। तो प्रभु जी भगवान खुद बताते हैं, मतलब इंडिकेशन देते हैं कि हाँ वो भी रेसिप्रोकेट कर रहे हैं और तुम भी करो।
थैंक यू प्रभु, थैंक यू वेरी मच। दिस इज अ प्रैक्टिकल सिचुएशन। चलिए आगे पढ़ते हैं। मेरे माइंड में भी हैं दो तीन चीजें, लेकिन आई थिंक आज हम जल्दी फटाफट इसको सेकंड चैप्टर फिनिश करके फिर करते हैं इसको। प्रसादे सर्व दुःखानां हानिरस्योपजायते प्रसन्न चेतसो हि आशु बुद्धि पर्यवतिष्ठते। For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Okay? So basically, once we get the mercy of the Lord, then we become satisfied in Krishna consciousness, and we become beyond, our consciousness becomes beyond the miseries of the material existence. So whatever pains and pleasures our body was experiencing, we are not affected by that. We are indifferent from that because we are fixed on the soul platform and we are directly Krishna conscious and experiencing our relationship with Krishna. Okay. नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य न चायुक्तस्य भावना न च भावयतः शान्तिरशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम्. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? Yeah. So this connectedness is very important. If you are not feeling connected with Krishna or devotees, then there will not be any possibility of peace. Your mind will never be peace. Unless one is in Krishna consciousness, there is no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, 29th verse, that when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all good results of sacrifice and penance, that he is the proprietor of all universal manifestation, and that he is the real friend of all living entities, then only one can have real peace. So this is the peace formula. Therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the mind. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal. And when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Therefore, one who is engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace. Okay? However much he make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. So if we experience Krishna, then we are peaceful, and if we are not experiencing Krishna, then we can never remain peaceful. So that's why, to some extent, we have to keep our mind and senses also peaceful. Then we can think about Krishna. So it is the other way around also. So right now we are not totally Krishna conscious that we experience Krishna all the time. So at least we keep our mind and senses peaceful so that we can think about Krishna mechanically. So that will make us more connected to Krishna. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmanu anuvidhiyate tadasya harati pragyam vayurnavam bhasi. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Unless all of the senses are engaged in the service of the Lord, even one of them engaged in sense gratification can deviate the devotee from the path of transcendental advancement. As mentioned in the life of Maharaj Ambrish, all of the senses must be engaged in Krishna consciousness, for that is the correct technique for controlling the mind. So if any of the senses can bring the mind to the wrong place, and if that happens, then our connection to Krishna is lost. So that's why mind and senses are our highway robbers. We might be driving at a very high speed, but if the highway robbers are there, they will rob us even at that high speed, and we will have to come down, like reduce our speed. तस्मादस्य महाबाहो निगृतानि सर्वश इंद्रियाणि इंद्रियार्थेभ्यस्तस्य pragya pratisthita. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. So that's why restraining, hankering for the happiness which is felt by the interaction of senses and sense objects, that hankering has to be curbed by hankering for Krishna consciousness. So anything can be achieved. Even we don't need to drink water or eat food also, if we are able to strengthen our consciousness. So it is only because our mind is so much swayed away by the agitation in the senses. That's why we are not able to thrive without eating. But if we can manage our mind, then actually we can fast. We can keep Nirdjala Ekadashi also. It is all about the mind. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. One can curb the forces of sense gratification only by means of Krishna consciousness, or engaging all the senses in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. As enemies are curbed by superior force, the senses can similarly be curbed not by any human endeavor, but only by keeping them engaged in the service of the Lord. One who has understood this, that only by Krishna consciousness is one really established in intelligence, and that one should practice this art under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, is called a sadhaka or a suitable candidate for liberation. Okay. So senses can only be controlled if they are engaged in the service of the Lord. So if you are feeling angry, then also you are under Maya. If you are feeling greedy, then that is also Maya. If you are lusty, that is also Maya. But you can't really, these feelings will come. But ultimately, we should not act on those feelings. We should just continue serving where whatever way we have a taste of service. So this is called Gauna Bhakti. Gauna Bhakti is when you are serving according to your own propensities. A person, he might be like participating in Rath Yatra, or a person, he might become a teacher at a school, a person, he might be serving other people in NGO. So according to your propensity, you serve and somehow try to bring Krishna in that. Yeah. So there are various levels of activities. There are indirect activities, there are direct activities. So, for example, Rath Yatra is a direct Krishna conscious activity. So like this, we have to connect with Krishna through these activities. Next verse is very important verse. Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato mune. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. Yeah, anybody wants to read? Hina Mataji? Or Pragya Mataji? Yeah, go ahead, Mataji. 69 verse. You are on mute, Pragya Mataji, if you are reading.
Yes,
Oh,
Prabhuji.
this is the wrong verse I'm projecting it.
But unless one is sorry,
No.
Prabhuji. But there are two classes of intelligent men. One is intelligent in material activities for sense gratification, and the other is introspective and awake to the cultivation of self realization. Activities of the introspective, sage, or thoughtful man are night for persons materially absorbed. Materialistic persons remain asleep in such a night due to their ignorance of self realization. The introspective sage remains alert in the night of the materialistic man. The sage feels transcendental pleasure in the gradual advancement of spiritual culture, whereas the man in materialistic activities, being asleep to self realization, dreams of varieties of sense pleasure, feeling sometimes happy and sometimes distressed in his sleeping condition. The introspective man is always indifferent to materialistic happiness and distress. He goes on with his self realization activities undisturbed by material reactions. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So in my company, I was talking to some people in my cab. So I told them that you should wake up at 6 a.m. So he asked me, at what time do you wake up? I told him I try to wake up by 4 a.m. Then he says, what do you do at 4 a.m. after waking up? Then I could not talk because they will not understand our spiritual activities, right? So if you tell them to wake up at 5 a.m., they will say, what will I do after waking up at 5 a.m.? There is nobody to talk to, there is nothing to eat. But actually, those hours are the best for practicing spirituality. If you do Mangal Arati, if you do singing for the Lord, that's the Brahma Murta, and all the demigods are personally present. So if you do Krishna Bhakti in those hours, there is a lot of spiritual benefit. in those hours. Yeah. So that's why that is the night of the materialistic people. And that's why we should regulate our schedule always. Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So people go to bar, they sleep at 2 o'clock, but devotees wake up at 2 o'clock and do Mangal Aarti. They do chanting, say 32 rounds. They are cooking prasadam, taking prasadam. They are totally in touch with Krishna during those hours, 2 to 6. So that's what, like, devotees say that non-devotees are mad, and non-devotees say devotees are mad. They say, okay, what if there is no Krishna? Wouldn't it, like, you will all be doomed? But this question was asked to Prabhupada one time. Prabhupada said, what if there, okay, we are doomed already, but what if there is Krishna? Then you will have no destiny, and we will have good destiny. Even if there is no Krishna, we are doomed, and you are also doomed. But if there is Krishna, then we are totally succeeded. So this kind of question was asked to Prabhupada by a reporter. Okay, let's go to the next verse. This is important verse. Okay, you can make a sketch also on this verse. You can make some picture of a ocean, of a devotee, where there are rivers. There is a metaphor is used by Krishna in this verse. So from 68 to 72 verses, all are like positive verses. These are the symptoms by which you will be able to cultivate Buddhi Yoga more and more. Apurimanam machala pratishtham samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti na kama kami. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Yeah, purport, anybody wants to read? Ravi bro, you are there?
Okay, Prabhuji, Prabhu wants to read or?
No, you read, bro. Prajit Prabhu has read already. Yeah.
Okay. This is which number? What is the number, Prabhu?
70th verse, bro.
Okay. Okay. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enters like rivers in the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strive to satisfy such desires. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water, but the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. That is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. Krishna conscious person is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like an ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities and he is not even slightly disturbed by the desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious person, one who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, and although the desires are present. Because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the God, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who fulfill desires even to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. The fruitive workers, the Salvanists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from the so called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desire, therefore they are in perfect peace. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा. थैंक यू वेरी मच. कुछ बताना चाहेंगे आप इसमें से कुछ समरी?
जी प्रभु, इसमें बेसिकली बहुत बड़ी चीज बोली है भगवान ने कि मतलब उन्होंने एक समुंदर को और नदी का एग्जाम्पल लिया है कि समुंदर हमेशा स्टडी रहता है और नदी एजिटेटेड रहती है, और जब एंटर करती है समुंदर में तो भी समुंदर पे कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. इस जैसे डिजायर्स हमारे होते हैं वो हमें एजिटेट कर देते हैं. अगर हम स्टडी नहीं है, कृष्णा कॉन्शियस नहीं है, तो हम कोई भी डिजायर हमें तो एजिटेट करेगी, हमें थोड़ा सा अनस्टडी बनाएगी. मगर अगर हम वाकई अंदर से पीसफुल हैं एंड वी हैव ऑल दैट वी वांट एंड देयर इज नो मटेरियल डिजायर, then any desire will not be able to disturb us. I mean, it's a very high statement, but I think it takes time to reach to that level. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Very nicely conveyed. So actually, like recently, Radhagovind Maharaj was saying that ultimately the happiness which we hanker for, and when we start like exploring the options by which we can experience that happiness, from that point on, that happiness is finished. So actual happiness is internal happiness when we connect with Krishna, when we associate with devotees. But when we hanker for happiness of sense gratification, then as soon as we do that, immediately that leads to suffering. That leads to more and more suffering, and that takes us away, more and more away from the real happiness. So as far as this body is there, this soul is actually covered by the body. So as far as the body is there, these urges will continue. This lust, greed, and anger will continue. But it is the devotee's responsibility to strengthen his Krishna consciousness so much that his vessel is full in with bhakti rasa. And although this body might it might give you provoking situations, some urges might be there, but because of his fullness in Krishna consciousness, his bhakti rasa in his heart, he is not swayed away by those urges. He is always focused on his Krishna. He always remembers, okay, I will go to Govardhan after 1.5 hours. He contemplates on those sanskaras which he has built during his bhakti life. So recently one devotee was giving the example of a caterpillar. A caterpillar, whatever net he makes, the same net he gets bound. But when he is bound within that net, he is always thinking, when will I become butterfly? When will I become butterfly? So when that net breaks, immediately he becomes butterfly. So although we might be in the net, if we keep thinking about what we have to become next, and we don't like really pay too much consciousness, we don't really invest too much consciousness in the material desires, then actually that will be our success. So during what determines what we will become in the next life is the hankering which we cultivate, irrespective of our situation. We can be in Grahastha ashram, we can be a college going student, we can be doing some company work as a brahmachari. But if we are able to cultivate these hankerings, even Asit Krishna Maharaj was saying that if we cultivate this eagerness to be in Vrindavan, then actually that will purify us. Even a thought of Vrindavan will be purified. I remember Manish Prabhu used to tell that when he chants in Delhi also, he thinks that he is walking in Vrindavan. So actually those sanskaras come back. Like when we do Govardhan Parikrama, whatever is stored in our psychophysical, in our antakarana, that comes out when we try to endeavor in that direction. So these things are very powerful actually. These are called Udipana. So when you do this Vraj Dhuli, Yamuna, Govardhan, all these are Udipana. When Pujari blows conch shell, this stimulates our devotion. So the more we cultivate this, the more we intentionally and attentively listen to this and take the association of these Udipanas, the more our devotion becomes enhanced. Okay, let's read next two verses. Thank you, Prabhu. Vihaya kamani yah sarvan pumam sharatini spriha nirmamo nirankara sashanti madhigachati. A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. So this proprietorship actually gives us a lot of suffering. When we think that we are this body, whatever urges are coming, we think that we cannot remain happy without fulfilling those urges. And we think that our family members are ours. It is our duty to satisfy them, to fulfill them, to make them happy. Actually, that brings a lot of suffering. Like there has to be certain level of detachment. Then only you will be peaceful. Because if you are too much attached, they will also go up and down. Then you will be also like suppose you are holding the tongue of a tail of a cow. Then if the cow runs, then you will also go behind him. So it's like that. So that the attachment should be it should be in a medium level actually. Anybody wants to read purport? Akshat Prabhu, you are there? I think you are not well. Okay. Hina Mataji, you want to read? Or we'll go back to Prabhjit Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, to become desireless means not to desire anything for sense gratification. In other words, desire for becoming Krishna conscious is actually desirelessness. To understand one's actual position as the eternal survivor of Krishna, without falsely claiming the material body to be oneself and without falsely claiming proprietorship over anything in the world, is the perfect stage of Krishna consciousness. One who is situated in the perfect stage knows that because Krishna is the proprietor of everything, everything must be used for the satisfaction of Krishna. Arjun did not want to fight for his own sense gratification. When he became fully Krishna conscious, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight. For himself, there was no desire to fight, but for Krishna, the same Arjuna fought to his best ability. Real desirelessness is desire for the satisfaction of Krishna, not an artificial attempt to abolish desires. The living entity cannot be desireless or senseless, but he does have to change the quality of desires. A material desireless person certainly knows that everything belongs to Krishna, Isha Vasam Idam Sarvam, and therefore he does not falsely claim proprietorship over everything. This transcendental knowledge is based on self-realization, namely knowing perfectly well that every living entity is an eternal part and parcel of Krishna and spiritual identity, and that the eternal position of the living entity is therefore never on the level of Krishna or greater than him. This understanding of Krishna consciousness is the basic principle of real peace. Peace. Hare Krishna.
थोड़ा स्लो पढ़ सकते हैं आप, थोड़ा भाग रहे थे ऐसा लग रहा। This transcendent technologies. So we are part and parcel of Krishna. Mame vancho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastani indriyani prakritistani vanshati. So ultimately we have to desire to please Krishna. So then only our spirituality will increase. So Maharaj also was saying that like many people, yesterday also I told, I think in Lilamrit class, that many people they go Radhe Radhe Shadi Kara De ya Radhe Radhe Bivi Dila De. Very few people say Radhe Radhe Sham Dila De, right? Matlab, they say, but basically like in Vrindavan, all the Vrajvasis, they are just asking for the happiness of Krishna. So that's what is real Krishna consciousness, and that's why Krishna is ready to be bound by them. So once we surrender to Krishna, once Krishna's happiness become our goal, then immediately Krishna surrenders to us also. Surrender mean to say like he will start reciprocating with us. Okay. So desire should not be killed. Like in Buddhism, it is said that desire is the cause of all suffering. But no, actually ignorance is the cause of suffering. Desire should be changed. We should change our desire. From our material sense gratification desire, we should make our desires Krishna conscious. I have to hear this. I have to complete this reading. to propagate Krishna consciousness. Yes, Prabhu. Go ahead. Ravi, so you want to ask something? I think by default.
No, Prabhu. By mistake, it got raised.
No problem. Okay, we'll read the last verse and finish today's session. Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha Nayanam Prapya Vimuyati Sitvasyamantakalepi Brahma Nirvanam Richati. That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So actually, this is the consciousness. If we are able to cultivate at the time of death, we will go back to spiritual world. That's what this verse is saying. And what is this consciousness? That we are always desiring to serve Krishna. We are desiring to please Krishna, and our bhakti vessel is fully full with bhakti rasa. So purport, Pragya Mataji, you are, or Aman Prabhu, you are there? Just a second, Aman Prabhu, if he is available now. Otherwise, Pragya Mataji. Okay, yeah, Mataji, go ahead.
Yes, Guruji. Purport: one can attain Krishna consciousness or divine life at once, within a second, or one may not attain such a state of life even after millions of births. It is only a matter of understanding and accepting the fact. कट
क्या हो गया?
प्रभु जी महाराज लिखे हैं, कोई पढ़ने
कटवांग
में नहीं आ रहा है.
कटवांग महाराज attend this.
Katwang Maharaj attained this state of life just a few minutes before his death by surrendering unto Krishna. Nirvan means ending the process of materialistic life. According to Buddhist philosophy, there is only void after the completion of this material life. But Bhagavad Gita teaches differently. Actual life begins after the completion of this material life. For the gross materialist, it is sufficient to know that one has to end this materialistic way of life. But for persons who are spiritually advanced, there is another life after this materialistic life. Before ending this life, if one fortunately becomes Krishna conscious, he at once attains the stage of Brahma Nirvana. There is no difference between the kingdom of God and the devotional service of the Lord. Since both of them are on the absolute plane, to be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord is to have attained the spiritual kingdom. In the material world, there are activities of sense gratification, whereas in the spiritual world, there are activities of Krishna consciousness. Attainment of Krishna consciousness, even during this life, is immediate attainment of Brahman, and one who is situated in Krishna consciousness has certainly already entered into the kingdom of God.
So you can experience spiritual world when you are practicing devotional service. Krishna is there in front of you, and that is the spiritual world. So while in this material world also, you can be in spiritual world consciousness, Vaikuntha consciousness. There is a verse also which proves that. Iha yasya harer dasya karmana manasagira nikala swapi avasthaso jivan mukta sa uchyate. Yes, Madhuri, continue.
Brahman is just the opposite of matter. Therefore, Brahmi Sthiti means not on the platform of material activities. Devotional service of the Lord is accepted in the Bhagavad Gita as the liberated stage. Sagunam Samat. प्रभु जी पढ़ने में नहीं आ रहा है.
सगुणान समति तेतान ब्रह्म भूयाय कल्पते.
Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. Therefore, Brahma Sthiti is liberation from material bondage. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has summarized this second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita as being the contents for the whole text. In the Bhagavad Gita, the subject matter are Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. In the second chapter, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga has been clearly discussed. and a glimpse of Bhakti Yoga has also been given as the contents for the complete text. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Antaji. So yeah, like Bhagavad Gita contains like the second chapter contains everything: Sankhya Yoga, Gyan Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, and finally Bhakti Yoga also. This verse is telling about Bhakti Yoga. So this chapter is like a summary of entire Bhagavad Gita. And that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur has named this chapter as Contents of the Gita Summarized. So just like when we write a research paper, right, we write an introduction where we summarize what we have accomplished by a research paper, and then we explain the solution, and then finally we give a conclusion. So similar, like these techniques are followed by Vyasdev also. Like these are not like found by our scientists. These are coming from our disciplic succession. So now in the third chapter, we'll learn about Karma Yoga. Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
हरे कृष्ण प्रभु प्रभु ये क्वेश्चंस तो नहीं है, लेकिन एक टास्क आपने दिया था वो एक्चुअली था तो श्रीमद् भागवतम का, लेकिन आई थिंक मुझे लगता है कि प्रभु जी यहाँ पे वो थोड़ा हेल्प करेगा, तो क्या हम प्रोजेक्ट कर सकते हैं प्रभु जी?
हाँ हाँ, करिए प्रोजेक्ट करिए. तो एक्चुअली हम लोग भीष्मदेव की प्रेयर्स पढ़ रहे हैं, उसमें भीष्मदेव सारे धर्मों के बारे में बता रहे हैं युधिष्ठिर महाराज को. तो उसमें दान धर्म, स्त्री धर्म, उसमें ये बताते हैं कि कैसे स्पिरिचुअलिटी को हम कल्टीवेट कर सकते हैं. जो हमारे मटेरियल एनिमीज होते हैं उसके क्या एंटीडोट है. तो प्रभुजीत प्रभु, ये सबको विजिबल है क्या स्लाइड? My recording stopped.